Let's go back in time to the 1920s. World War I was finished. Europe was very tired, sad, and poor. But on the other side of the ocean, America was feeling fantastic. In fact, America was having the biggest party in history. We call this time the Roaring Twenties. Why? Because America was loud, rich, and very excited. In the 1920s, America felt like a superstar. The factories in America were making many new and amazing things. Suddenly, regular people could buy shiny cars, big radios, and beautiful clothes. Everyone wanted to be cool. Everyone wanted to have the best things. But there was a small problem. Did the people actually have the money to buy these expensive cars? Often the answer was no. But in the 1920s, that was not a problem. People started to use credit. Credit is simple. You take the car now, and you promise to pay for it later. It felt like free stuff. America looked at all these new things and thought, wow, life is perfect. However, people did not just buy cars. They wanted to buy something else. They wanted to buy stocks. A stock is a small piece of a company. In the 1920s, the stock market was crazy. The price of stocks went up every single day. The line on the graph went up and up and up. It looked like a mountain that never stopped. America looked at the stock market and smiled. America thought, "This is so easy. I'm going to be rich forever." Soon, everyone wanted to join the game. Cooks, teachers, and bus drivers all wanted to buy stocks. But they needed more money to buy them. So the people went to the banks. The banks were very happy to see them. In fact, the banks were a little too nice. The bank said, "Do you want to borrow money to buy stocks?" "Sure. Here is a bag of cash. No problem." The banks gave money to almost everyone. The banks did not ask, "Can you pay this back?" The banks just assumed that the stock prices would go up forever. They thought the party would never end. So the music was loud, and America was dancing. Everyone was spending money they did not have. The stock market prices became higher and higher. It was a giant bubble, and it was getting very big. America felt safe. America felt powerful. America thought nothing could go wrong. But was America right? No. America was very, very wrong. The party was about to stop. It was October 1929, and suddenly the party stopped. America looked at the stock market graph. Usually the line went up. But on one scary morning, the line went down. At first, America thought, "This is strange. Maybe it is a mistake." But the next day, the line went down again. And then it went down a lot. Suddenly, everyone panicked. The people were terrified. They thought, "My money is disappearing. I need to sell my stocks now." Imagine a crowded movie theater where someone shouts, "Fire!" Everyone runs to the door at the same time. This is exactly what happened to the stock market. Everyone wanted to sell, but nobody wanted to buy. On a day called Black Tuesday, the prices crashed completely. The stocks were worth almost nothing. The glorious mountain of money was gone. This was very bad news for the regular people. But it was even worse news for the banks. Do you remember how the banks gave money to everyone easily? Well, now the banks were nervous. The banks called the people and said, "Hello, please give us our money back now." But the people answered, "I cannot pay you. I lost all the money in the stock market." The banks were shocked. They realized they made a terrible mistake. They had lent too much money, and now that money was gone forever. Soon, regular people heard the bad news. They ran to the banks to take out their savings. They banged on the doors and shouted, "Give me my cash!" But the banks locked the doors. The bankers looked at the angry crowd and said, "We are sorry. The bank is empty." Thousands of banks closed. People's savings disappeared instantly. America was not a superstar anymore. America was broke. The happy party of the 1920s was finished, and a very dark, difficult time was about to begin. So, the banks were empty and closed. This was a complete disaster for the businesses. Shops, factories, and big companies needed money to operate. They needed money to buy materials and pay their workers. But because the banks were closed, the businesses had $0. The business owners looked at their workers with sad faces. They thought, "I cannot pay these people." So the owners had to make a difficult decision. They fired everyone. Factories stopped moving. Stores locked their doors. Suddenly, millions of people did not have a job. In the morning, men put on their suits and went outside to find work. But there was no work. Signs on the doors said, "No jobs today." Without a job, families had no income. This created a terrible chain reaction. People could not pay the rent for their apartments or houses. The landlords were angry and kicked the families out. Where did these people go? They had nowhere to go. Sad families built small, ugly houses in public parks. They made these houses out of old wood, cardboard boxes, and trash. They lived in tents in the middle of the city. These little towns of tents were dirty and cold. People called them Hoovervilles. They used this name because the president was named Herbert Hoover, and everyone blamed him for the mess. America was not just homeless. America was also very hungry. Families did not have money for bread or milk. In the cities, Thousands of people stood in long lines. They waited for hours just to get a free bowl of thin soup and a piece of bread. America used to be the richest country in the world, but now America was starving. The problem did not stay in the United States. It traveled across the ocean. Do you remember Europe? After World War I, countries like Germany and the United Kingdom were very poor. For years, America was the rich friend. America lent money to Europe to help them rebuild. But now America was broke. America picked up the phone and called Europe. America said, "Hey, remember all that money I lent you? I need it back right now. Also, I cannot lend you any more money." Europe was shocked. Germany panicked. Germany thought, if America does not help me, I will crash too. And that is exactly what happened. Because America stopped sharing money, the economy in Europe collapsed too. The Great Depression was now a global problem. Back in the U.S., the people were tired of living in tents and feeling hungry. They were tired of President Hoover telling them, "Everything will be fine." They knew everything was not fine. They wanted a real solution. They wanted a leader who actually cared. Luckily, an election was coming soon, and a man with a new plan was ready to step forward. The people of America were desperate. They looked at President Hoover and shook their heads. They thought, "He does not understand our pain." So, in 1932, the people voted for a new leader. They chose a man named Franklin D. Roosevelt. Everyone called him FDR. FDR was very different from Hoover. He was energetic, confident, and he smiled. He spoke to the people on the radio and said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." That sounds very cool, right? But nice words cannot buy bread. FDR knew that America needed action. He promised a new deal for the American people. FDR looked at the problem simply. He thought, people are poor because they have no jobs. Private companies have no money to hire them. So, the government must give them jobs. This was a radical idea. Usually, the government does not hire millions of people. But FDR did not care about usually. He started creating huge projects immediately. The government said to the men in the tents, "Do you want to work? We are building a new road. Here is a shovel. Here is a paycheck." Suddenly there was noise in America again. It was the sound of work. Thousands of men went to forests to plant trees. Others built big dams to make electricity. They built bridges, schools, and parks. Even artists and writers got jobs from the government. It was hard work, but the men were happy. They felt proud to earn money again. They took their paychecks home and bought food for their families. Then they bought clothes and shoes. This started a good chain reaction. Because people were buying shoes, the shoe store owner made money. Because the shoe store owner made money, he could pay his rent. The money started to move around the country again. Slowly, the American economy began to wake up. It was like a cold car engine finally starting on a freezing morning. Was the Great Depression finished? No, not yet. America was still poorer than before. Life was still difficult for many families. But the terrible panic was gone. The banks were safe again, and people had hope. America felt like it was finally recovering from a long, bad sickness. However, while America was slowly fixing its roads and bridges, things were not getting better everywhere. Across the ocean, Europe was still in deep trouble. Do you remember Germany? Germany was very poor, angry, and jealous. And in this chaos, a new, dangerous leader was rising in Germany. He was watching the world, and he had a terrible plan of his own.